Hey man, how's it going?
Good. What's going on?
Not much, dude. Just gaming. So today we have Zish here, PoE content creator, who makes various degrees of Frostblade builds, mostly. Although I've scoured a little bit further down, and I've seen that you're actually you played another skill at one point. I don't know. Do you want to explain, or
Oh,
do you want to
starting off with controversy right away,
any?
huh? I have been playing other skills, believe it or not, from time to time. I do like Frostblades a lot, and it's my comfort zone because I've just played it so many times. But yeah, I venture out. I play other stuff. Playing the same skill for months and months and months can get pretty burnt out.
Makes sense, yeah. So talking about Frostblades in general, what was like the first time you like, I guess was it like this? Was this 3.20? When was the first time you, I don't know, fell in love, quote unquote, with Frostblades? Or when was the time where you like, this is my comfort zone? And what happened, kinda?
It was probably around 3.20, maybe. I don't remember exactly what league, but it was after they changed Heat Shiver and made Heat Shiver get all that extra fire damage.
Yeah.
It was the first time I played it after that, and it just had like really good damage, because before that change, I had played Frostblades in the past, like years ago, and it always had really good clear, but the boss damage always felt really bad. And then once I played it with that new Heat Shiver, it had good boss damage too. And then I was like, okay, this skill's just awesome, and you can just play so fast. And yeah, so then I also kind of felt that there was this growing like PoE content sphere, right? That was like becoming massive, and like everything had like a little like niche like knowledge source. And I kind of felt there was a void there for Frostblades
Yeah.
a little bit, and so I was looking for like resources on it, and I was like, ah, well, I'll make the resources.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I love like I guess you call it one trick pony or something content because it's like just people who do the same thing over and over, and you have so much context over so many leagues, right? Like you say, comfort zone, right? That's probably because you know exactly how to solve all the problems when a new league comes around already. You already know exactly what makes the build tick, right? So it's just really comfy. And
Yeah.
from a viewer perspective as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Frostblades is that way for me for sure. We've seen a lot of changes happen to it. With the Heat Shiver nerf was one of the big ones. People think it's been dead ever since they nerfed Heat Shiver, but
Yeah.
that's obviously not true.
No.
But we've had to make some tweaks with like charms and Affliction League and all the borrowed power stuff. We've had to tweak. Every build has to make tweaks, but yeah, it's been fun to play it. It's a good league starter, and you can scale it to like infinity. There's a guy that hangs out in my stream a lot named Spraz. He has a YouTube channel too. He has like 750 million damage on his Frostblades build this league.
Damn.
So it's like more than ever because of Warden, mainly.
Yeah.
But start from the bottom and you can scale as high as you want.
So do you think that makes like a good one trick kind of skill that you can play every league? Like, because you said Frostblades used to be just kind of clear, and now it also had damage, and all of a sudden it catapulted itself into like mainstream status almost. Like I hear about Frostblades build literally every league, and there's not that many skills of that ink, right? Where you say there's people hungry for it every single league. Do you think that was the main change, or what else?
The Heat Shiver change was definitely big, but I don't know. Everyone has the kind of their own standard on what constitutes a build that is like an all-arounder or that can like do all content. Everyone has their own thresholds for damage and survivability and etc. So
Yeah.
I think it's good enough to do that to fit that description, but other people might disagree.
Yeah,
and it all depends on investment. You're not going to do everything on day two. Most people anyway. But with enough investment, you can do everything.
I guess a direct comparison this league would be like to Lightning Strike and Molten Strike, and it's like weird because people think it's so competitive and only one of those builds can shine, and just all of them can do any content now. It doesn't really matter. Whatever color of enemy destruction you like, you just slap on, right? Like it's not that deep, personally, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like the PoE community sort of gets too focused and caught up on like the meta. Like, what's the best thing? Oh my god, I have to play the best skill.
For sure.
And it's not like that.
It also
Yeah, I
doesn't
think
matter if
Lightning
you-
Strike is better mechanically. It has several advantages that Frostblades doesn't have, but Frostblades is good too.
What's your take on Frostblades of Katabasis? Like, have you tried it all? Given it any thought?
I haven't like built around it. but I am familiar with how the skill works and, you know, how differently you have to build it. For anyone who doesn't know, Frostblades of Katabasis has no projectiles like regular Frostblades does. So regular Frostblades, you hit a target and the projectiles like fan out behind it, right?
Yeah.
In all directions. But Katabasis doesn't have any projectiles, but it has like 3 times as far as strike range. So you can hit almost across the entire screen with it, and then it leaves a cold dot in between everything you hit, basically, and it can melee splash around in that area that you hit. And so you have to have melee splash on it for it to clear, but the damage scaling, if you play it as a hit skill, the damage scaling is exactly the same because the base damage is the same, the effectiveness of damage is the same. I have never played it because I don't want to get melee splash because Tribal Fury's on like the far left side of the tree, and the builds that I played never path over there.
Yeah.
And plus I like to use Fury Valve, which with projectiles, Fury Valve clear is bonkers.
It's crazy.
So yeah, it's a different flavor.
Yeah.
I mean, it works for sure.
Yeah, it seems to do
Especially
really
on
well.
Slayer, you know?
It seems to do really well in like tight packs, right? And like endgame scenarios where there's just a lot of mobs, but the projectile tag is also worth a lot, right? As you said.
Frostblade's projectile clear hasn't ever been the problem or the weakness to Frostblades.
So talking about Warden, what was your experience? Like, so from personal experience, for people who don't know, I started Lightning Strike Warden, and what I've heard for a league before is, hey pal, why didn't you play Slayer? Hey pal, did you know Slayer is now good with endurance charges? Hey pal, did you think about playing Deadeye? Blah, 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 right? I just want to start out with, do you think it's weird that people think it's weird that you play a new class?
Yeah, it is very weird to me because when we've had the same ascendancies for so long, and then they give us a new one, it's like, of course everyone wants to try it. And like, just because they like change endurance charges, to me, it's like, okay, sure, Slayer's going to be good, but what about this cool new thing? You know, we got to try this cool new thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I was surprised that I was surprised that Warden wasn't more played than it was.
For sure.
I think probably the lack of like strong defensive nodes on it is what turned a lot of people off, because the desire to have defenses is like has grown over time now, I think, and people don't want to play glass cannon builds as much.
I guess there's, I think, 2 reasons for me. The first one is the freeze node looked too good to be true for me. So I was like, I'm a little bit skeptical that that's actually how it works, because it just like, I don't know, it just, I mean, on Frostblades, you're already freezing, kind of. But on Lightning Strike, for example, that shit, like, it was a game changer. It was like, nothing exists on my screen.
Yeah.
Literally nothing. It wasn't like normal freeze. It was like, no, you don't understand. Nothing moves. Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, and against bosses, not even uber bosses, but just doing your first Watchstones, seeing those mobs with 50% less action speed, it was like, now I understand why I suck usually, right? Like, I want this speed of game. That's the speed I want to play at.
Yeah, Warden, it was very strong.
Yeah, and I guess the biggest reason, though, was that we didn't know much about tinctures, right? Like, nobody wanted to speculate, are we going to have old tincture mods? Are tincture mods going to suck now? What are going to be the values, right? So we knew, like, one day before, and after that, it was like, okay, I'll take my 400% increased damage, 600% crit or whatever. I'll make it work.
Yeah, not having the tincture mod data when they put out the patch notes was kind of a downer, because they released this ascendancy that's like half of it is, hey, look at these cool new flask things, but like, okay, well, what are they? You know, and it's hard to make decisions around what you want to do when you have no idea what the build is capable of without the tincture data. But yeah, tinctures are cool. I like them. They're a good addition to the game, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't go the tincture side of the Warden Ascendancy, though.
Oh, really?
But, yeah.
I mean, there was a lot to take, especially for Frostblades then, yeah. But the one thing where I knew I was going to go tinctures eventually was when I saw the attack speed roll. Because I was like, the only thing that might feel bad here is attack speed, because you get so much damage nodes, but no comfy nodes. And then once I saw the attack speed suffix, I was like, if it's at least 17%, 19%, we're going to be fine, right? And then we saw it even go higher, and I was like, damn, it just felt so good. You probably still use the tincture, right? Like a one-off.
Yeah, still use one tincture. Especially since they Ninja deleted the flask attack speed mod, which, why did they do that?
I don't know, like, I thought maybe they want to separate tincture equals damage and defenses equals flasks or something, but then they still left diamond flask, so I don't know.
I didn't know that, and on like the maybe second day of the league or something, I was rolling alts trying to get attack speed flask. Like, was like, God.
I knew after
finally
500
somebody told me, like,
I knew after
yes.
500 alts. So.
That's probably about how many I spent too. Someone in my chat was like, "Hey, they deleted the attack speed mod," and I was like, "No, what do you mean? No, they didn't." I was like, "That wasn't in the patch notes."
It's still on PoB.
But the tinctures, this was one of the questions I got the most the first week of the league was about tinctures and whether or not to go tinctures on Frostblades. I didn't go tinctures because I thought the shock node on Warden was too powerful. But there was a lot of like active play that you had to do to enable that shock node to stack it up, right?
Yeah.
Which I used VLS to do, basically, long story short. I used VLS to stack up shocks on single targets. But that node plus the Scorch plus Avatar is like the most damage burst combo that we've ever seen on an Ascendancy. That was a common thing I had to explain a lot.
For me, there was like 2 reasons why I didn't go shock node in the end. I actually cut the shock node, believe it or not. I was getting to a point where I was shocking for 40% anyways from one hit, right? So I had really easy time with that. And then my Ami, whatever, I forgot the name again. The ailment Ami, right? Like 10% increased damage per enemy ailment.
Oh yeah, Yoke.
Yeah, Yoke, exactly. Like Yoke is just too efficient and it's additive with the extra shock, so it didn't make any sense to use both. And since the new bleed nodes and everything, it was so easy to get like 6 ailments on enemies, or what was it? 5 ailments on enemies. That Emmy was just such a huge damage spike that I just went double tincture node, freeze, and avatar, right? And it was amazing. And like you said, with the uptime, right, there was no worry about uptime at all. So felt really, really good.
Yeah, Yoke is definitely a game changer for Warden with the shock node. But I've been playing in a private league for a while now, and so I didn't have access to Yoke.
Okay.
And plus on Frostblades, without Yoke, you're not going to have enough lightning damage to get good shocks unless you take that shock Ascendancy node.
That's
also.
true, yeah. That's obviously a difference, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, Warden's really cool. I'm really happy with the change to Warden. Raider was so boring and didn't have an identity, and everyone knows that.
Yeah.
So Warden is awesome. I wish they would tweak Barkskin a little more and make Barkskin a little more appealing.
It's trash.
But
did you pick it during campaign?
If they made it... No, I actually didn't take it.
Oh my god, it's so good at the start. Yeah, like you pick it and you're just immune throughout the campaign at white maps, right? But then later it sucks. Yeah.
I took the Scorch node actually first.
Really?
And I was never going to take Barkskin because I've never really had a problem during the campaign dying.
Yeah.
And if I do die, it's like, whatever. I don't play hardcore.
Cares,
so the Scorch node, though, I went crit a little earlier than I typically would so I could enable the Scorching. And it popped off, man. I was like deleting bosses instantly. Once that double Scorch procced, it was awesome.
I mean, makes sense because you have like no minus res at that point, right? Other than maybe a curse or whatever. So I guess in terms of like having your comfy pick, right? Like being a one-trick pony or whatever. What do you think are like the advantages of this one? Like, for example, I don't know, let's say Frostblade sucks for a league. Are you going to force it through? Do you like it that much? Or are you going to be like, no, I'm going to be a Lightning Strike cuck for a league or something?
I would probably play it anyway. I feel like at this point, I've sort of pigeonholed myself into the Frostblades hole. It has become such a autopilot pick for me that they'd have to nerf it like pretty damn hard, especially now for it to be like unviable, I think. Yeah. And the Heat Shiver nerf league was probably the league where if I was going to like, jump ship to something else, that would have been when I would have done it. But even then, we were still able to make it good. You know? It just has that investment ceiling that you can still push it almost no matter what they do to it. Yeah. Especially if we get any kind of borrowed power from league mechanics, which we got like almost none this league, which sucks by the way. The claw enchantments are so bad.
I mean, we got mappers, so.
Yeah, but we have extra free loot. We have gumball currency for days from mappers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a weird thing this league was also how you got the loot in like week 2, week 3. It started when people actually got loot, which is the last time you actually need loot if you're an efficient player, right? Like week 1 is where you can snowball, and there was nothing to be gained. In fact, if you did the league mechanic in week 1, you probably lost out because you could have farmed like some actual currency. But then...
Yeah.
I should have just waited for other people to figure it out, honestly.
Yeah, the delayed rewards are... They're so delayed that by the time you get them, you don't need them anymore.
Once you're already established, like, what are you doing? Yeah.
I still don't have tier 10, like, farmers.
Really?
I don't have anything in my town maxed at tier 10, I don't think, actually.
Okay.
It's just too much gold, man. Too much gold.
It is. The mappers are crazy gold. But they I don't know like they have different ground loot. Like the mappers do not have our ground loot. I can tell you that because they actually dropping stuff. It's crazy. It's like items and stuff and currency.
Just the other day, I was trying to farm one of those Light of Meaning jewels from Ritual, and I farmed Ritual for like 4 days. I never saw the King in the Mist altar. Didn't get an invitation, not once. And then I unspec'd from it, and like 2 hours later, my mappers got a King in the Mist invitation.
They have some kind of multi, 100%. Like this is the same with other stuff though. I also got the white blessing from the mobs from Harvest. I got from like one of my first mappers. I was like,
yeah,
that's not normal. That's like
the Oshabi thing.
Yeah. So one last thing, you started rerolling to a Slayer, right? What's the reasoning for that? Did you just want to mix it up, or I mean, in general, probably it's just better in endgame, right? Like if you want to do tier 17 content, Slayer just makes sense.
I knew that I was gonna want to try Slayer at some point this league, and so I was kind of stuck in like build purgatory. I was like thinking like, what am I gonna play? What am I gonna play? Right?
Yeah.
And so just because I wanted to not be stun locked by that, indecision, I just decided to just send the Slayer now. And I've always liked Lightning Strike too. I've played Lightning Strike before in the past, and I figured why not just give it a go now. So yeah, I'm just going to see how it goes. I'm playing in a private league though, and so that really restricts how far I'm able to push
Oh, so no Ralakesh?
my characters.
No Ralakesh?
No, I'm not going to. I haven't found one of those yet.
Ooh, okay.
I'll have to make it work without it.
Because like what I heard from people is, and that was like my fear before League started, was that if I go Slayer, people are too reliant on Ralakesh, right? And it was like 20 div in the first few days. So like if I put a 20 div item in my PoE personally, I'll get lynched. Maybe you can get away with it. It's like I'm dead. It's like over. So that was also the main reason why I wanted to go Warden. But yeah, Slayer seems absolutely great after you have it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine without it though.
Like
my bar, my expectation is like probably much lower than a lot of people's, that play Trade League especially. And so I think probably all you need to do is like solve endurance charge generation, right?
For sure.
Without Ralakesh, you'll be fine. Yeah, the private league, I want to, if you don't mind, I'll talk about that for a minute. So I've been playing since Betrayal League, right? Which is like the end of 2018. So for about 6 years now. And I think around the time that they added altars to the game, the Exarch and Eater expansion, the loot in Trade League just started to become so free and easy and overwhelming. And maybe it was like it kind of like intersected with my like experience as a player where my farming efficiency was really high.
Yeah.
And I found it just so easy to farm currency and like max out my character and get anything I wanted like so quick and so easy in Trade League that it made Trade League start to get really boring for me.
Yeah.
Because after like a week, I was like, okay, I have 500 divines, my character's killing Ubers in 5 seconds, like what now? And there wasn't content in the game that was hard enough to keep pushing after that, week or however long it took. And so starting in Necropolis League, I decided to start playing in a private league instead. And I was going to do SSF, but then I had an idea to just do a private league instead so I could play with like a handful of other people that wanted to play with me.
Just out of interest,
but
do you put mods SSF. Or do you just play base game?
It's just base game.
Okay, yeah.
And it's SSF light basically. The trading that happens is like some map sharing and like, some niche currency stuff, but nothing major. It's basically SSF.
Yeah.
And that experience has been completely refreshing, and I'm so glad that I did it. And then I did it again this league because I had such a good time last league that the Trade League burnout was really real for me. And playing in SSF has been very refreshing. So having that restriction, I'm like, I'm going to make this character. I need Ralakesh. Let me just go buy it real quick, and now my character's done. In SSF, it's like, I don't have Ralakesh, so now I have to
work around it,
solve around it.
Yeah,
and it's been a really good time.
Probably makes you a better build maker as well, right? Like in general.
Yeah, to an extent. It's hard to make builds in an SSF environment though when you're so restricted on those like build enabling uniques.
Yeah.
But it's definitely made it more fun to play the game because in Trade League, it's all just gets distilled down to divines per hour, right?
Yeah.
And in SSF, it's like, oh, well, okay, I need harvest juice. I need essences. It's like everything has a purpose now. It's not just, find the most min-max meta farming strategy and do that so I can make the most money. And I've had a lot of fun playing the game like that.
I guess I don't mean creativity-wise, right? Like build making, obviously you can't do much on SSF, but you have to make the most out of what you have, right? Like, and what I often feel like is on trade, I get a little bit complacent if I have too much currency. Like I just throw it away. I don't even think about how I craft stuff. I don't think as much about how to solve things because you just throw currency at the problem over and over, and you can't do that in that environment, right?
Yeah, definitely true.
Yeah.
Yeah, SSF is like you're very limited on divines, especially like I don't really like Sanctum all that much, so I don't have like the raw divines from farming Sanctum.
Yeah.
So if I want to do like a prefix or suffix lock, it's like, oh man, I better really think about this. You know, I only have like 12 divine orbs, so I don't have very many chances at this.
I still think it's a skill thing though. Like you probably, when did you start playing?
In Betrayal League.
I'm pretty sure, like you said, it was just a trajectory where you got so good at some point that it's just too easy to farm currency. And like, that's totally normal, right? Like you need SSF. Some people need hardcore even. I think there's different things. You can go SSF, you can go hardcore, or you can go like me where you just kind of chill. I don't care about currency anymore. And I just like roll different builds. Half of them suck, so my currency gets used up anyways, right? Just make the game more difficult for you, right? Like have stages there.
Yeah, you need a challenge.
Yeah, you need a challenge.
I tried hardcore too. I like hardcore as well.
You did?
I actually tried SSF hardcore this league, but I went on Glad and I died to DD like twice, and I was like, okay, this is annoying.
Just have Corpse Explode.
Block has too many weaknesses.
Yeah, just go Axe and Corpse Explode, easy peasy.
But I'm gonna play Gauntlet coming up this league though, so I'm excited about that.
I never thought about it. I don't know. Like I absolutely hate losing progress for some reason. I can't. Like.
Oh, you should try Gauntlet, man. Gauntlet's a ton of fun.
Yeah. It's like a single player game almost, right? Like. It feels completely different.
Oh, it definitely is, but it's really fun to play in it, and also like follow along with other people's progress, and of course watch Ben and how absurd he is at the game, and
that's usually what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very humbling to like watch what he's doing, and then like look at yourself like in Blood Aqueduct still, and he's like killing pinnacles already, and it's like, what am I doing? Jesus.
It's crazy. Like the mechanical skill. Do you think with PoE 2 and Horizon, those are the people who are gonna do really well in PoE 2 as well? The mechanically skilled players versus the build creators and stuff like that?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. I think PoE 2 is definitely going to require a little bit more skill from the player, because in PoE 1 you can kind of brute force your way through everything with a certain level of character power, but PoE 2 is going to be very different, especially with the bosses not being able to. You're not gonna have 6 portals on bosses. Like if you die on a boss, you have to do the whole boss again.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be like a little pseudo hardcore element to bossing in PoE 2, which is gonna be very interesting. I think it's gonna raise the floor on defenses on builds, which probably will make all builds just kind of feel better. Yeah, I think PoE 2 bossing is gonna, and just the game in general is gonna be hype. A lot different.
There's gonna be like boss compilation, like actually things that PoE 1 doesn't have, right? Like where. It's actually going to be hype to kill a boss, and not just hype to kill a Gauntlet boss, but like base game boss maybe, even, right?
I hope so. Yeah, everything they've shown us so far, like the bossing just looks so awesome. I'm really excited about PoE 2.
I'm still wondering.
I hear all the time people saying like, oh, PoE 2, it's going to be so slow. It's going to be so slow, and it's because all we've seen is like Act 3 characters with white gear with no passive tree and like 1 link skills, It's like, of course it's slow in this, They haven't shown us endgame where you're going to have 9 6 links or whatever.
To be fair, I get those people, right? Like I get those people. You get shown the same footage 5 years in a row, you start thinking that's the game, right? Like,
yeah.
To be fair.
They've really been tight-lipped about the endgame, but I'm not worried at all. I think it's going to be
They actually
so
said,
awesome.
I don't know if you noticed, they did say they will release something before the early access. So they will give us some bones before. So yeah.
Oh, I hope so. I really want to see the Ascendancies. That's what I'm yearning for.
Oh, yeah, for sure. In an ERPG, endgame is 99% of the game. I'm just so weirded out by them only showing us the campaign, and I wonder if the campaign is actually, like, did you ever play Grim Dawn?
I have played it, yeah.
Yeah. So there's, like, zones where you go back to farm certain items later in the campaign, and I wonder if they want to do that with the campaign in PoE 2 as well, because otherwise, like, they have put so much detail and so much work into it. Imagine being like that in PoE 1 and just rushing through every single time. Everybody's like, how can I get through this the fastest? I'll buy leveling gear for 100 divines, right? Like, just so I don't have to stare at this shit never read any dialogue. So maybe it's just them wanting to attract new players, or maybe they actually want to involve the acts a little bit more, which would be cool, right? Kind of.
I think so, yeah, because it would be a shame for all that work to just be skipped over as fast as possible.
Yep.
It does look cool though. Everything we've seen looks great.
I'm
really
great.
excited.
Other like the Marauder class, I already forgot how it's called. Like the 2-second windups and then you get stunned in the middle is like, I just want to fire some bolts, some armor-piercing bolts.
Armor-piercing bolt, yeah. Oh, it's going to be great. The Ascendancies, though, I was talking about this the other day. I'm wondering how much they're going to dump before the game comes out, as far as details about the patch note dump that we get before leagues. Are we going to get that before PoE 2, where we have all the information? Because imagine going into PoE 2 and they haven't announced the Ascendancy data. And you have to pick a class, but you don't know what the ascendancies are.
Do you mean before early access? You mean, or before the game releases?
Well, both really.
Because before early, it's kind of impossible on release, right? They're gonna have to show us stuff in early access. That's what I also kind of don't like about D4, right? Where it's PTR before everybody already knows exactly, and then you start the league and it's like, okay, so we know the top 5 builds. It's like nice. So
yeah, it's solved already.
It's solved. That's lame. What I like. PoE is one of the last big games that actually does this. It gives you patch notes, but it doesn't. There's still stuff to figure out when it releases, right?
Yeah, the early access can be a big killer for discovery and exploration of the new content.
Yeah,
I wonder how detailed or how complete the early access version is going to be.
Probably
I guess we'll see.
60%, 70%. So I mean, this is complete. I don't know if that's actually true, but I've asked a lot of people. I wasn't at the events, but I asked a lot of people who were. And after the first event, everybody was kind of down in terms of PoE 2. At the second event, everybody was way more positive. So what I think happened is they realized they need a lot of feedback to kind of make the game, get it into a good position. So I don't even know if they planned on having early access before. But then they got a lot of feedback, and I think now they realize, oh, we need some feedback just, right?
Maybe, yeah. So it's always good. I kind of do hope they limit a little bit of it, though, because I don't want to go into PoE 2 where we have 5,000 content pieces that are here's Slayer, here's Warrior, here's Witch, here's Sorceress, here's the best build. It's I don't want that to happen before PoE 2 comes out.
Or at least don't share all the endgame bosses, like the pinnacle bosses and stuff like that. Hide them until release, right? What they do.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Have people die all the time. Death compilations and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's gonna be so good.
There have to be Reddit
posts. I played PoE 2.
Sorry, what?
Did you play PoE 2 at all?
No, I have not played it yet. I have not played it. I was supposed to go to Gamescom, but it didn't work out. So I'm still in the dark. But if they invite me again, I'm fucking going. So we'll see.
Yeah, I played it at PAX West last year.
Really?
And yeah, in Seattle. Because I live near Seattle.
Yeah.
And so I just went up there. I went up there just to play PoE 2. There was 500 other booths with all kinds of craziness. And I was like, where's GGG? GGG? GGG?
Damn.
And it was good. The game's really smooth and plays really smooth. The graphics are awesome. It's going to be good. PAX West is coming up again this weekend too, actually. I was considering going up there again.
Oh, really? Did they have WASD back then already?
I don't think they did, no.
Okay.
Or if they did, I didn't know about it. What do you think about WASD? Are you excited to do WASD?
I don't. So, kinda, because I used to be a WASD fiend, right? But if I think about isometric games and how you have to hold it, don't you always have to have at least 2 fingers to kind of to make sense? And I'm thinking about trying to hit Q and E. If I have to go to the right side, hit E at the same time. It sounds annoying as hell to me. So maybe it's just because I haven't done it in a while, but I feel like I'm still going to be a mouse gamer. I don't know.
Me too. I completely agree. I am not excited about WASD movement at all.
Yeah.
I feel like if you use WASD movement, then what the hell is your mouse hand doing? You're playing the entire game with your keyboard hand if you do WASD movement.
So can you do this though? Can you do WASD and then have 2 or 3 keys for non-combat and then put all your combat on your mouse if you have a good mouse on your mouse buttons maybe? Maybe that feels good. But it probably feels weird because then you try to move with the mouse and you don't, kinda. So I don't know.
I guess, but what's the point at that point?
I don't know.
Then you're flip-flopping,
I have no idea.
I was really worried though that when they showed all this footage of the WASD movement with the character strafing, but they were still shooting something while they were moving, right?
Yeah.
I was really worried that was going to be like a WASD only thing, but I saw some footage from Gamescom the other day where somebody was using mouse movement and they were still able to like shoot while they were moving with the mouse. So that was reassuring.
Okay. That's weird, right?
But you
so
do
you
have to
basically
like
mean aiming in a different direction than where you're moving, right? Like, yeah, that could be weird otherwise.
Yeah, you are able to do it, but you do have to like move your mouse back and forth, like move, attack, but your character will keep moving while you're doing it.
I'm not really a huge console player, and like it seems like controller is just better than WASD for me, or WASD. Like controller has a lot of upsides to WASD, and I don't even like controller. So I'm wondering how it's gonna work, because on controller, the hand where you use your stick, you can still use all those buttons because you have all these fingers free, and with the keyboard, I mean, you can still get control and shift with your pinky, right? You can do, I guess, space with your thumb and stuff like that. But the Q and the E and the R while you're moving, I just feel like it's weird. It's just, especially, think about how many buttons we're going to have to press. Like, people told me they had to click like 10-ish buttons, so I don't know.
Right.
No.
It's so hard to think. Like, imagine like a Warcry build, and you're trying to like WASD move like during the ball phase on Exarch. Right? And like, but you're trying to kill, like on Uber Exarch, you're trying to kill the Minotaur while you're going through the balls.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to imagine doing that with one hand, like all the fingers and no way.
To be fair though, it might just be muscle memory, where we just get used to it. But what makes me a little bit worried is that they say that WASD is the preferred way, which usually means we haven't really thought about mouse too much, which makes me now a little bit worried, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I hope not.
Hope not, yeah.
They really are. It seems like they really are trying to like push it though.
Yeah.
They're hyping it as like, this is a new, you gotta try this. It's gonna change your life. It's like,
well, I mean, until I play it, I won't knock it, right? Like,
I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm willing to try it, but I have low expectations.
Probably. Well, dude, thank you for coming today. It was fun chatting with you. Once again, love your content. Always looking into your Frostblades guides. And I think people who make thorough content on one build are definitely much appreciated for everybody. It's like one of the best content in my opinion. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was fun.
Hell yeah.
I appreciate it.
All right. See you around, man. Peace.
Yeah. See you later.